I'll be upstairs as usual is the title of a story by Ezekiel Kralin, the latest installment of the story of the dogs and his friend Deke and so on and so forth. Ezekiel Kralin wrote, Email correspondence, June 10th, 2023. Subject, he did not have a hissy fit. Date, June 10th. He was sitting up semi-awake by the time I stepped outside, apparently still oblivious to the missing speaker because he's been facing the street since he first plunked himself onto the concrete. I crouched down to pet the dogs. He looked at me and said, Yeah? Bad news, Deke, I replied. Someone stole your speaker. I'm not kidding. He then looked behind where the cart was set, double-checked like he couldn't believe his eyes, and said, Fuckers! I am so sorry, I said in response. They must have been really quiet, because the dogs didn't even bark. They? He queried. What do you mean, they? I'm guessing 2 people stole it, because it's so heavy, I explained. Maybe they had a car and saw the speaker sticking out there like a pylon, couldn't resist the temptation. I was waiting for him to holler at me, or the pups, but gratefully that did not occur. I told him, from now on, I'm going to take whatever speaker he has upstairs, whenever he camps here. I just didn't expect anyone to bother stealing such a huge device, I told him. Again, I'm really sorry. I pet the mutts some more and thought, but God is with you, Deke. Things will get even better day by day. You have a roof over your head, and these wonderful dogs are a true blessing. You really have nothing to cry about. Something I would have liked to tell him, but I figured he may use that as an excuse to lash out at me. On the other hand, I sensed he was thinking the same thing in light of his calm demeanor. I asked if he'd like a fresh supply of doggy victuals. He said yes, so I brought it downstairs in a flash, since I already had a sack ready to go. I gave the doggies one more petting, then said I'll be upstairs as usual. Only a few minutes passed, though, before I thought I heard him say, Yo! Though it could have been anyone, since on the faint side, so I poked my head out the window to discover he had already departed. It was almost at the far corner of Market and Castro. My sleeping bag was still out there by the curb, unattended, so I hurried down to retrieve it. Now, why didn't he bother to tell me he's leaving, so that item wouldn't be stolen as well? Or was that softer yo his way of telling me he's leaving now? If so, it wasn't very thoughtful not to wait till I came to the window first. Maybe he harbored some resentment against me for not spotting the thieves, so didn't give a fuck. Be that as it may, his notable lack of fury was impressive. Subject, troll at the gate, pita on the plate, date June 11th. This idiot hasn't been around for weeks. See picture 1. So now he has to show up again right in front of my building. The worst of these vagrants love to block entrances, or at least park their asses right in front instead of more reasonably a few feet to the left or right. No one's going to tell them to move, since you never know when they'll explode in your face and possibly strike out at you. The worst of them are the ones with heavy walking sticks or some other item suitable for bludgeoning. Once in a blue moon, it's a golf club. No cops around ever to get them to move away from the door or take their fucking weapon away. They know what they're doing. It's an intentional act of intimidation. Homophobia is sometimes part of that, as they are fully aware this is a queer neighborhood, thus the perfect place to visit whenever they're in the mood to spew biblical threats. Makes them feel like real men, according to what they were told over and over again by their Christianized parents from faraway Georgia to much closer to home, such as Redding, Stockton, or Sacramento, or even somewhere just across the bay. Sidebar. It may be the case for some vagrants to be acting on a subconscious level with the homophobia sublimated, but they're just the same. Anti-queer dogma runs deep. He's the one who often explodes in rants, marches back and forth, and in other ways puts up a frightening show for all pedestrians walking by. And, of course, those who, like yours truly, enter and exit Hotel California North. I just wanted to go to Maury's Corner Shop 2 blocks up to purchase a package of whole wheat pita bread and a large bottle of ginger ale. I did not want to go through absurd drama just for that, but I had no choice. He could be there for hours. Fortunately, he's been quiet so far and gave me no trouble when I exited through the gate. Upon returning, though, there he was, standing right in front of the gate, as if he could read my mind on my stroll-back hovel. It's really not a good idea to try to enter one's building in such a compromising situation, even if you know the fellow is probably harmless in spite of his reputation to act out. And that's the problem right there. Probably. Because you really can't be sure. For such types are the most likely candidates to go berserk at the least expected moment, and he's a physically robust dude to boot. Be that as it may, he stepped aside a couple feet so I could pass without my having to say a word. But why say what a relief when he's still standing so close you could almost rub shoulders, and you're at your most vulnerable to an attack when turning the key. I held a small canister of pepper spray in my free hand, just in case. Can you believe this, Watson? An adrenaline boost of fight or flight, just to step out for a boring stroll to a little shop nearby. Second pic shows why I needed my pita bread. There it is, warmed up and slathered with garlic spread. In the bowl is my homemade red lentil soup thickened with potato flakes that have been sitting in a bag for almost 2 years before I realized it was still there and could now be put to good use, albeit only 5 tablespoons were applied, thus leaving most of the package intact. But who knows? Maybe in another 2 years those flakes will come in handy again. Good thing I keep it tightly sealed for the apocalypse. Added to the soup were a generous quantity of frozen peas and broccoli florets from Trader Joe's, plus half a jar of grilled artichoke hearts that I chopped up, all lightly seasoned with some freshly ground pepper and a few hefty dashes of garlic powder. You will also notice that half container of TJ's chunky guacamole I scooped out and placed along the top right edge of the bowl. Not a particularly colorful dish, but quite tasty and wholesome altogether. An entire meal fit for a toothless king of a very poor cluster of fiefdoms. I made enough soup to last 4 or 5 days, by the way. On my wonderful magnetic induction hot plate, my kitchen elves have it easy. Signed, Zeke K. Holmes. P.S. I think San Francisco just had its very first mass shooting 2 days ago. See, 9 people wounded in San Francisco mass shooting. 1 remains in critical condition.